Okay, so the FBI director just admitted under oath that he knew about the Iran war over a month in advance, and days before it started, he fired the entire unit that specializes in tracking Iranian threats on American soil. Not because they were bad at their jobs, because they investigated Donald Trump's classified documents at Mar-a-Lago, and when a congressman asked him where those agents even worked, the director of the FBI said, "I'm not familiar with that, you fired them. You don't know where they worked?" Truly shocking stuff. So yesterday, the House Intelligence Committee held its worldwide threats hearing. Kash Patel, Tulsi Gabbard, CIA Director Ratcliffe, all of them sitting right there, and Representative Steve Cohen from Tennessee did something most of that room was clearly not prepared for. He connected the dots, the firings, the war, the oil prices, the enriched uranium, all of it in about 5 minutes. Watch this clip. Watch Cohen ask Patel a direct question about why he gutted America's Iran counterintelligence right before a war with Iran. Watch Patel pretend he doesn't know the answer, and then watch Cohen turn to Gabbard and start pulling threads on what the intelligence community actually knew versus what the White House told you. This clip's about 5 minutes. Pay close attention to when Patel says he doesn't work on timelines, because that line is going to matter a lot in the breakdown. If you're not subscribed, now's the time. Let's get into it.
It was sometime before that, sir.
Sometime before that. So you had not. With that knowledge, why did you fire at least a dozen agents in Counterintelligence Unit 12 that specializes in Iran counterintelligence, which makes us much less secure and safe with this war going on from Iranian attacks potentially against our country?
As I said earlier, Congressman, I don't work on timelines when these terminations occur. There are internal investigations conducted by the careers at the FBI that highlight unethical or inappropriate conduct, and it's up to me to make the decision. But our Iran Threats Mission Center has never been more resourced, as I've highlighted a 43% increase in counter-espionage arrests from Iran alone and 360 ongoing terrorism investigations with Iran-affiliated individuals.
And the people you fired, those 12 people, they were experts on Iran, were they not?
I don't believe so.
They worked in counterintelligence, did they not?
I'm taking you at your word, sir. I'm not familiar with every
You're the
single
chief
word.
director. I'm not. You should know the answer. You fired the people. Where did they work?
People were terminated for violating their ethical obligations and the high standards.
Was the ethical violations that they dealt with the case of the classified documents that were found at the bathroom in Mar-a-Lago, was that the ethical issue?
As I said earlier, all those matters are pending litigation, so I'm not going to comment on them.
Director Gabbard, are you familiar with CI-12?
I'm not, Congressman.
Okay. Let me ask you this question. In the intelligence community's unclassified annual threat assessment from last year, it said, quote, Iran's large conventional forces are capable of inflicting substantial damage to an attacker, executing regional strikes, and disrupting shipping, particularly energy supplies to the Strait of Hormuz. It seems the IC was entirely correct in its assessment about Iranian retaliation in the Strait. Did the IC's assessment about Iranian capabilities in the Straits of Hormuz change in the past year?
No, Congressman.
Does Iran still have the capability to threaten shipping in the Straits of Hormuz with missiles, mines, and small boats?
Their capabilities have been largely degraded, but yes, they still have means to threaten passage through the Strait of Hormuz.
And how long can they keep the strait closed?
Based on current events, I'd have to get an updated assessment from the intelligence community on that.
Did you have an analysis of the impact of a war on global supply chains and the price of oil and gas?
I believe that assessment may have come from the Department of Treasury or Energy.
It didn't come through your office?
It came from their element within Department of Energy or Energy.
Do you know if the president was briefed on those assessments?
I believe so, but I can't confirm.
So if he was briefed on those assessments that that was a problem and the Straits of Hormuz could be shut off and that's causing a great problem in the world's economy with oil prices going up to, I think, under $120 or something a barrel and an effect on all countries' economies, why would the president not have taken actions to strengthen defense around the Strait of Hormuz?
All I can say is that the president ultimately is responsible for making the decisions based on the totality of information and intelligence that he has available to him.
The intelligence that he has available to him, that's a scary thought. Does the IC know where Iran's enriched uranium is?
The IC has high confidence that we know where it is.
And can you tell us that in classified?
We can speak more about this topic in the classified setting.
Okay. Could it be, we have methods of destroying it?
This is a conversation for a closed setting, sir.
Do you have any idea what the purpose of the Marines being sent, the units that are being sent over there, is the idea that we will put troops with boots on the ground in Iran?
ODNI and the IC is not involved in the operational planning and movements of the Department of War assets.
Thank you. I'll be very honest with you. When you made your original comments, it was kind of scary because of all the craziness that goes on in the world. I can't wait for the classified setting. Thank you.
All right, so let's talk about what you just watched. Because that exchange, that 5 minutes, is one of the most important things that's happened in a congressional hearing this year, and almost nobody is covering it the way it deserves. Cohen asks Patel a simple question. How many days before we invaded Iran did you know it was coming? Patel tries to dodge, says he'd rather discuss it in a classified setting. Cohen pushes. Was it 2 days? 3? A month? And Patel finally admits, sometime before that. Sometime before. Meaning he had advanced knowledge that the United States was about to launch a military operation against Iran. And here's why that matters. According to CNN reporting from March 3rd, days before Operation Epic Fury launched on February 28th, Patel personally fired at least a dozen agents and staff from Counterintelligence Unit 12, the FBI's elite squad that specializes in Iranian threats on U.S. soil. These are the people who track assassination plots, sleeper cells, foreign spies, and the reason they were fired? It's every single one of them had worked on the classified documents investigation into Donald Trump at Mar-a-Lago. CBS News reported that sources inside the Bureau called it, quote, devastating to the FBI's Iran program, said the agents had confidential informants in the Iranian community that new agents simply cannot replicate. So Cohen asks the obvious question. With that knowledge, why did you fire at least a dozen agents in Counterintelligence Unit 12 that specializes in Iran counterintelligence? And Patel says, I don't believe they were experts on Iran. Cohen fires back. They worked in counterintelligence, did they not? And Patel, the director of the FBI, the man who signed the termination order, says, I'm taking you at your word, sir. I'm not familiar. Cohen's response is perfect. You're the director. I'm not. You should know the answer. You fired the people. Where did they work? And then Patel pulls out the line that tells you everything. He says they were fired for ethical violations. Cohen asks, were those ethical violations the classified documents found in the bathroom at Mar-a-Lago? And Patel hides behind pending litigation. Won't answer. So let me just make sure the math is right here. The FBI director knew a war with Iran was coming. He fired the team that protects Americans from Iranian retaliation. And his defense is that investigating Trump's mishandling of classified documents is an ethical violation. That's not a national security policy. That's a revenge tour with a security clearance. Now here's the part that doesn't get enough attention. While Patel was gutting the FBI's Iran capabilities, the actual threat was materializing exactly the way intelligence analysts warned it would. Iran closed the Strait of Hormuz on March 4th. That waterway handles roughly 20% of the world's daily oil supply. As of this week, tanker traffic has dropped by 70%. Iran has carried out over 20 confirmed attacks on merchant ships. The IRGC has publicly stated that not a single liter of oil will pass through that strait. So Cohen shifts to Gabbard and asks about the Strait of Hormuz. And Gabbard confirms that while Iran's conventional forces have been largely degraded by the strikes, they still retain what she called significant asymmetric capabilities. Small attack boats, naval mines, coastal missile batteries, all of it still operational, all of it still threatening commercial shipping. Think about that for a second. We launched a war. We fired the people who tracked the retaliation, and the retaliation is now choking 20% of the global oil supply. And then Cohen asks about the economic fallout. He cites assessments from the Department of Energy and Treasury warning that oil could spike above $120 a barrel. And as of this week, Brent crude has already hit $110. Gas prices in America are approaching $4 a gallon, highest since late 2023. Fortune reported that Dubai crude, the benchmark for Asian buyers, hit an all-time high above $150. The IEA released 400 million barrels from emergency reserves, the largest release in history, and it barely moved the needle. Cohen asks Gabbard whether the president was briefed on this. Her answer: the president makes decisions based on the totality of information and intelligence, which is a very polished way of saying, I'm not going to tell you what he knew. And here's where it gets really uncomfortable. According to Gabbard's own written testimony to the Senate the day before, Iran's nuclear enrichment program was, quote, obliterated after last summer's strikes. She wrote that there had been no efforts to rebuild. But when she delivered that testimony out loud, she skipped that part, just left it out. Senator Warner asked her why. She said she was saving time. Saving time. She omitted the one line that contradicts the president's justification for the war, and her explanation is that she was running long. Then Cohen asks if the intelligence community knows where Iran's enriched uranium is. Gabbard says they have high confidence they know the locations. But when pressed on what the plan is to actually secure or destroy it, she defers to a classified setting. CIA Director Ratcliffe testified that Iran still has at least 440 kilograms of 60% enriched uranium. Enough, he said, for 10 nuclear weapons. Secretary of State Rubio told Congress that, quote, people are going to have to go and get it. That's not a diplomatic plan. That's a boots-on-the-ground admission wrapped in a soundbite, and that's exactly where Cohen goes next. He asks about the Marines being deployed to the region and whether there are plans to put boots on the ground in Iran. Gabbard says the intelligence community doesn't handle operational planning or movement of military assets, which is technically true. But it also means that in a public hearing about the biggest military operation since Iraq, the intelligence officials are saying, we just deliver the intelligence, we don't decide what happens with it. And the person who does decide, the president, has publicly contradicted his own intelligence chief on whether Iran was even a threat. So here's what this actually means. The FBI director fired Iran experts to settle a political score and then pretended he didn't know what they did. The intelligence community knows where the enriched uranium is, but won't say how they plan to deal with it. Oil is above $100 a barrel and climbing. The Strait of Hormuz is effectively closed, and the justification for starting this entire war, that Iran was 2 weeks from a nuclear weapon, has been